Opposing Gloves here, and today we are going to be talking about a subject that's near and dear to me. It is the grid. So, what's the grid? This is the grid. If we come over to FM8, this is the grid. Almost everything's going to have some sort of a grid. The good ones will allow you to change the grid directly. The bad ones will just make your life crazy and suck. So, meaning you can't change the grid directly, and you're probably going to have to read the manual to figure out how to manipulate it. Usually the free ones are like that. So, what's the deal with this grid? So, okay, I'm going to talk about Citrus, and then I'm going to talk about FM8. Actually, let's go to FM8 first. FM8 is far more straightforward, in my opinion, because they use arrows to tell you where things are going. So, how do we facilitate, what's a carrier and what's a modulator? Well, what is a carrier? A carrier is the sound you hear. It's something that's coming out and you're hearing it. The modulator is something that is changing the carrier, telling the carrier maybe to do something weird. It's like drugs for the carrier. So, that's a good way of thinking about it. Drugs, man. Drugs, that's how it works. So, okay. Here I could turn on, here I have my different operators, and there's a few special ones. If you're curious about those, go watch my FM8 series. And I can turn them on like so, pretty straightforward. Now, this grid, what's the deal with this? Well, I could tell F to come straight out. When it comes out down here, it says, oh, I'm going out that way. Like, oh, go out. And 80% of it is coming out. I could tell E to turn on and come out. I can make operator E maybe some other wave. It's that way operator here. You see, it's pretty straightforward. I can control that here as well. The level actually coming out. Now, I can tell E, instead of going straight out, I could say, go into F. And you can hear that it is now modulating F. I could turn the volume on F up and down, but I could also do E. Now, what's going on now is officially crazy. So I'm going to go ahead and just leave it at the idea that we are defining relationships of modulators and carriers. This is something that's really important and something that FM8, again, is just more straightforward on. Man, that was a lot of stuttering right there. Holy crap. So here I have that triangle wave example, and I'm telling E to modulate F. I could tell F to modulate itself by simply dragging it up above it, and you can see the arrow says it's coming out and going back into F. So F is actually modulating itself. This stuff's going to have a lot more meaning to you later on, but it's important that you understand the routing, because people will call these, this is the matrices, so some people call them the program. I don't know. They come up with weird names for them. I always feel like they're not aptly named. Program matrices or something. The matrix. I call them matrices. So you can set up configurations of this to behave a certain way, and then I think they call them algorithms. That makes sense. I don't know. Anyways, they'll come up with a particular relationship they like between carriers and modulators, and then they'll utilize that relationship in different ways to create different sounds. It's pretty straightforward, but we are defining here some things. So I could tell E to modulate F. I could tell E to come out as a carrier. So now E is a modulator and a carrier to F. It's a carrier and a modulator to F. I could tell F to modulate E. I could tell F to modulate itself. I could tell E to modulate itself. And I could tell E to modulate D and for D to come out. Like, once you understand that, it's pretty straightforward. So that's FM8. I could double click any of these values to make it go away. And as you can see, that's simple enough. Like, FM8 is really straightforward in that regard. This thing is like the enemy when I first started. Like, I don't know how you felt when you first opened this, but man, this was my enemy. Like, the magic row of knobs that I didn't know what FM was at all. So I had no clue what these did at all. Like, zero idea. Now I know, but it's just funny. So, okay, first thing to note. We have these columns vertically and not vertically. We have some effects units here that we can send stuff to. We're not going to really touch these in this series here. That's something that's more specific to Citrus. I was going to say FM8. And we have this out right here. What does this out have to do with anything? Well, this out is the out of the operator. So if I want operator 3 to come out, I can have operator 3 come out. I can have operator 1 come out. And you see even a little yellow light turns on to tell me that they're coming out. I wonder if that turns on when they modulate. No, it doesn't. Ooh, that's something fancy I didn't know. That's something new, I believe. So it comes out. Maybe it's something old. Who knows? I can do that to 4. So the 4, as we can see now, we can associate these horizontal columns as this is all of operator 1. Operator 1 comes and then goes out. operator 3 comes and goes out. So, okay, that seems to make sense. When I turn the knob on the very end of the column of adjacent to the 1 or 2 or 3, it will come out and I will hear the sound, similar to how FM8 does it. Now, what happens if I turn this knob right here? Well, this is operator 1. This is where operator 1 meets operator 1. So if I want operator 1 to feedback into operator 1, I will turn on operator 1's knob. Make sure you turn your sound on first. And now I turn it on. And you can see it's working. Now I'm going to turn on oversampling because it just sounds better with oversampling. We get a saw wave. What you will come to expect. So this is really fine and dandy. Now, what's this other side? Well, I believe that's just a phase inverted version of the signal. The polarity is flipped. So, operator 1. Now, what does this really mean to us? Well, we have oscillator 1. Oscillator 1 is going out, so we're going to hear it. So when we think of it as far as columns going this way, these are our carriers. When we turn a knob on, like this is operator 4 as a carrier. Operator 4 as a carrier. So we're thinking operator 4, this is operator 4's carrier. So whenever we have a knob that intercepts the horizontal row, that's modulation. So operator 4 is being modulated by operator 1. Operator 1's modulating 4. Operator 4, if I wanted operator 4 to modulate 1, well, I'd go, okay, well, in order to hear 1, I got to look at this row. So it's this row. This is operator 1. This is where operator 1 hangs out. And if I want 4 to modulate it and, hand it some drugs, all I got to do is turn the knob on 4 where it intersects operator 1's, row. And that's what operator 1 sounds like on drugs. And so that is what's going on there. So if I want, for example, operator 6 to modulate operator 1, I could turn operator 6 on, modulate operator 1. And let's say I want to hear operator 6 as well. I go over to operator 6, I go across the row, and I say, oh, here's operator 6, turn that on. And I can hear it. It's a pretty low tone, I'm guessing. I don't even know. You just can't hear it. But it's there. Let me lower it. So anyways, now let's say I want operator 6 to also modulate operator 3, but I don't want operator 3 to come out. Instead, I want operator 3 to modulate operator 1. I don't want operator 6 to modulate. So right now we have this. So right now I've got operator 1 coming straight out, and operator 6 is modulating operator 3. But I don't want to hear operator 3. I want the modulated version of operator 3 to modulate operator 1. If we're getting crazy now. So I come over to operator 1, and I'm like, all right, operator 3, modulate operator 1. And you can see the relationship changes as I change the relationship to 6. So that's a really astute observation, Mr. Gloves. So now you're telling me that if I want to operate, if I want operator 1 to feedback on itself and then hear operator 3 being operated by operator 1, I can turn operator 1 where operator 1 intersects itself on the horizontal and vertical axis. Operator 3's horizontal axis, if I want to hear that, I turn on the knob adjacent to 3. And if I want to hear it modulating operator 3, I need to turn on where 1 vertically intersects the horizontal 3. And I would say yes. So as you can see, some pretty neat relationships can get set up here. We don't even know what we're doing. We're just learning the basics of routing, but this is really important. Now, we have these other knobs that have to do with effects and panning. I'm not going to deal with those knobs right now because we're just learning about FM. But that's the grid. And I know it's quite the topic, and you are going to need to practice configuring things. If you leave it as a default sine wave and then move it all the way to the left, I guarantee you will hear a big difference. You can hear it sounds like a bunch of jumbled up noise. So start sort of trying to make particular relationships work. That way, later on down the road, you don't have to think super hard about the routing of what's going where. So it's a really, really important thing before you really touch on anything else is understanding how this grid works. Again, in FM8, oh my gosh, in FM8, this is just a little bit more straightforward because there are, numbers going places. On any good FM synth will have some sort of a grid and will show you what's going on. Some of them don't give you control, as I said earlier, about the matrix that it's set up. It will allow you to control the ratios and oscillators and stuff, but it won't allow you to set up this, which is Another name for it could be called the modulation index, but we haven't reached that point yet. If you have any questions, let me know. Subscribe and have a blessed day.
Composing gloves. Reversing.